The unscientific, manipulative, and sometimes downright dishonest ways that campuses report sexual assault. Next on Campus Roundup. Hi, I'm Dr. Duke, and this is Campus Roundup at the College Fix. Our top story segment this week focuses on the way universities and colleges report sexual assault statistics. There's clearly a lot of gamesmanship going on. We're not getting the full truth. To talk more about this, we welcome Autumn Barrand, a political science major at Clackamas Community College in Oregon and a journalist at the College Fix. Autumn, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about what happened on your campus.
So on my campus, we had flyers for Sexual Assault Awareness Month promoting a false statistic that was not meant to be a national representative number to highlight a false number of students that will be sexually assaulted on a community college campus. And the college put it out without any sort of information or back history done on the topic.
So according to your really fantastic research, how many women were actually assaulted sexually on that campus over the last few years?
Zero.
So you can find no police reports, no campus security reports, nothing at all that suggests that any female students at your university reported a sexual assault.
Correct. There was one report earlier this year, but it was determined by the police that it was not actually on our campus.
So it wasn't even on campus. So what did the school report actually happen?
The college reported that there is roughly about 1,201 sexual assaults that will happen to female students on the campus based off of the 1 in 5 statistic. And there's no evidence, even by the college's own statistics, that that's even remotely true.
So it's really interesting, right, that the college really has no sexual... On the one hand, the college is double dipping, right? I'm sure they're bragging to parents. You send your daughters to our school, and there's almost no record of harassment or violence. On the other hand, apparently for politically correct reasons, they're wanting people on campus to believe that fake national statistic that 1 in 5 girls is going to get raped. Is that about right?
That's correct.
And what did you encounter in trying to get the community college's official account of this? Who did you talk to? Who did you try to get a hold of?
So first I spoke with the ASG, the Associated Student Government's vice president, considering the flyer said to ask questions to ASG. He didn't seem to have any information on it and directed me to college officials, saying he didn't know everything about the thing, even though he should have some basic knowledge. I was directed to John Ginsberg, who is one of the deputies for Title IX, to which he highlighted that it is a national representative statistic. And then when I later pointed out in the interview that it wasn't, he backpedaled a little bit and said, you know what, maybe you're right. We're still young in our production of sexual assault awareness. So you might have valid criticism. And so he was kind of softening up his stance on the whole issue. After that, I was pushed towards a few others, the HR dean, who made sure she was using specific languages in our interview after she wanted to know what was going on, to make sure she didn't say anything assumingly stupid that would make the college look bad, like using gendered languages and making sure that they were being very clear. However, she would later on focus on that you should believe survivors, while also in the same breath telling me that you should look at the evidence, which is contradictory to each other.
Right. On the one hand, they default to this word evidence when they ignore the evidence of their own police department, basically their own investigative team, and push a narrative. And this is probably an obvious softball question for you, but why do you think your university officials, your community college officials, why are they ignoring the complete absence of genuine sexual assault on campus? Why are they ignoring that in favor of a narrative that seems to want to scare female students?
I can't honestly say for sure. I can't assume their purpose. I would say there's probably an ignorance in doing the research on each individual statistic that they pulled. Before my interview with John Ginsberg, after he likely overheard my talk with Daniel, who was the vice president of student government, he sent me an email with a new, more recent statistic that's supposed to peddle the 1 in 5, but it said the same thing, that it's not 1 in 5 as a national representative, and it's just an average of the 9 schools. I would say that school probably just didn't do the research, and they're being pushed on this idea that sexual assault is is very big on campuses, and that needs to be destroyed by rhetorical means, even if it means possibly lying or not doing the full research.
Yeah, it does sort of seem like the narrative, right, of male violence, the narrative of female vulnerability, that narrative is one that, to question it, puts you in a kind of hot water as a college administrator.
Mm-hmm. Correct. They also would focus on very little bit about male sexual assault, and the ones that they focus on the majority of, as in the flyers shown in the piece, they mostly focus on males being sexually assaulted before the age of a certain age when they're still prepubescent, and then how many of those actually reported to people after the events. They didn't focus so much on the same thing as they did with women, and the statistics weren't as equal.
Autumn, were you able to talk to any of the students on campus to get a sense of what they felt, or any of the female students and their experiences on campus?
I was unable to do that.
Okay. Well, last thoughts now. Was this a hard article to research? Seems like you had to really, you kept getting pushed around a little bit from one administrator to another, and then you kept getting conflicting stories. What did you take away from trying to research this story?
I would say the biggest takeaway is being able to look into the smallest details of every peer-reviewed paper I'm being sent, and to make sure that you've done your research before even going to an interview. Because of that, I was able to see that John Ginsburg was able to soften his stance on the issue because he was pointed out that it wasn't what he said it was. So probably the most arduous part of this was having to read tons and tons of peer-reviewed papers in full detail.
Excellent piece of investigative journalism on your part. To read more stories like Autumn's, follow The College Fix on Twitter and Facebook. Autumn Barron, thank you so much for your time today. Time now for Talking Campus, our weekly discussion with members of the College Fix editorial team. I'm joined today by College Fix editor Jennifer Cabani for a conversation about all of these inflated and questionable statistics that universities are using to suggest that 1 out of 5 women on college campuses are going to be raped every year. Jennifer, where is this coming from and what's behind it?
So essentially, this statistic has been promulgated by an old study done in 2007 of 2 universities. About 5,000 women, online women, were surveyed, anonymous. And from that, these scholars extrapolated that 1 in 5 women would be raped. 20% of women would be raped or sexually assaulted on campus. And from there, it just snowballed. Became the official stat that was used by the feds. We had Joe Biden citing it. And at the end of the day, as the old saying goes, a lie repeated often enough becomes the truth. And so now it's just, 1 in 5 young women are raped and sexually assaulted on college campuses, even though actual statistics and more thorough surveys don't back that up. In fact, actually, a lot of people look at more trustworthy stats and find that 1 in 60 women might be sexually assaulted or raped during their 4 years, but that's a far cry from 1 in 5.
It reminds
me a terrible. No, we don't want 0 rapes. We don't want any rapes, but to suggest that 1 in 5 women are going to be raped when they go to campus, and no parent would in their right mind send their kids to college.
Right. And internally, the universities know that's not true, right? The story we just did with one of the campus reporters demonstrated on her campus that the administration itself was fully aware that the statistic wasn't true, but continued to propagate it. It kind of reminds me of a few years ago. You remember when the statistic was going around that during Super Bowls, men were like 150 times more likely to assault their wives, beat their wives during Super Bowl Sunday. And of course, it was all completely made up. Yet years and years and years down the road, people are still citing that statistic as if it were true. Why do you think, I've got a few reasons, but why do you think universities who really know that their campuses are really quite safe for women, generally speaking, why are they playing this game of allowing those numbers to dictate that this is what's happening, that if you send your kids to us, there's a 20% chance, like you said, that they're going to be raped? I mean, who would send their kids to college if that was true?
Yeah, so this is the feminist narrative at its worst, actually, and it's really, truly unfortunate because this is a serious crime, and the women who have to deal with this and have this violation need to be taken seriously, and they need to have the police on their side. Instead, we have these campus kangaroo courts, and we have administrators teaching students that if they don't give ongoing and verbal consent throughout the whole entire sexual process, that's considered sexual assault or rape. And so that's why you have so many skyrocketing statistics of campus assault and rape, because they think, well, he didn't ask me if he could touch my breast, so that's rape. I mean, that's what's going on nowadays with this new trend of affirmative consent. And so the feminist narrative eats this up because the women are kind of being used, these young women are being used as a pawn to advance their agenda and their narrative, and to continue to take control and denigrate men and denigrate masculinity and put men, lower on the rung, so to speak, and have them really running scared. We've done so many articles about lawsuits that families have filed over the years of young men who've been wrongly accused, unfortunately, and they're fighting for their lives. And their parents are heartbroken. The guys are confused. I mean, this has really caused a horrible epidemic on campuses of false accusations and miscommunications and kangaroo courts, and due process is out the window. I mean, the implications are far and wide.
Yeah, they are. And I think you're exactly right when you say this is the worst aspects of feminists. It's gotten so bad in college campuses where young girls are being told now that if any time after a consensual act is over, even if every aspect of the sexual act was consensual, if they decide in retrospectively that they were raped or that they really didn't consent, regardless of what they may have said to the boy, they can still file rape charges. And you mentioned that these kangaroo courts were radically minimizing the ability of boys to defend themselves from allegations, even especially the false ones. And I think you're also right. I think at the university I'm at, the universities I've taught at, faculty are absolutely terrified to challenge these statistics because they don't want to be called a bigot or a misogynist or to be complicit with rape. So there's this terrible cone of silence where a lot of people know it's not true, including at university administration, but they don't want to tell the truth.
Yeah. I think that basically we've seen like George Will, when he called it out in his column, he was the St. Louis Post-Dispatch dropped him from running a syndicated column, and you've seen campus speakers shouted down, disinvited over this issue just for trying to say, hey, wait a minute, these numbers don't add up. So it's just one of those things where people are being silenced for telling the truth, and in the meantime, real lives are being destroyed.
Right. And this is a huge issue because I know for a fact that universities want to have it both ways. They want to be able to advertise to their moms and dads how safe our campus is, what a welcoming community we are, how we're going to be like a home away from home for your kid, to sell mom on that campus. And then as soon as the girls get to campus, they're filling the girls' heads with this idea that you're going to be raped, right? That if you go to a fraternity party, or you aren't careful, or if a couple of guys will follow you home from one class to another, then instilling this kind of fear and hostility. It's a very dangerous mix, isn't it?
Yeah, and really one of the big unspoken aspects of this is the alcoholism, the alcohol that fuels these parties. I mean, these young women, they get drunk, they make mistakes, their memory is fuzzy, the guys are wasted too. But at the end of the day, I mean, alcohol plays a real dangerous role in what's going on with the campus rape epidemic. But if you think about it, this is what I found really interesting is the stats for like Detroit. Say there were 36.8 rapes per 100,000 inhabitants in 2009, a rate of 0.037%. So that's Detroit. So you're going to tell me that all of these campuses are literally way more dangerous than Detroit? I mean, it doesn't add up. It's kind of ridiculous on its face. I think we should just be honest.
Well, and the final point to make is that if we take the universities at their word, and there are this many assaults and rapes on campus, then the liberally controlled, progressively dictated universities are perhaps the most dangerous places in America for women, and maybe we ought to shut them down.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take it full circle and call them out on it, right?
Be sure to stay up on all the latest news and information from the College Fix editors by joining us on all of our social media platforms. Jennifer Kabanik, editor of the College Fix, thank you so very much for your time today. The College Fix has done an absolutely outstanding job of documenting the many ways that colleges and universities across this country are exploiting young women by arguing that there's a much greater percentage chance that they're going to be raped or assaulted on campus than is actually true. Up to 20%, some survey statistics would show, of women, college-age women on college campuses will be assaulted before they graduate. That is just wrong, and it's been debunked even by some liberal academic feminist women. The reality is that when you do this, when you fill girls' heads with this sense of vulnerability, you make them victims, and you actually criminalize masculinity. How often have we reported about toxic masculinity courses popping up on campuses? You are traducing men. You are assuming men are going to be guilty. You're teaching that to young girls, and you're also empowering them negatively. You are making them feel insecure and unsafe on their own campuses. You are making them lash out against boys who might approach them, or boys who they're in a relationship with. If there's any rough going in the relationship, the fake charges of rape begin to come out. This is a problem. College campuses are committed to protecting women and making them feel safe. You can't do that if you're making them feel there is a much greater chance of them being raped than is actually true. You're contributing to the problem, not helping. And that's the final fix. I'm Dr. Duke, and we will see you next time. For more videos and original articles, visit thecollegefix.com. And don't forget to like The College Fix on Facebook and follow on Twitter to receive your daily dose of right-minded news and commentary from across the nation.